Hi, hello everybody. Welcome to this edition of ASTC On Air, live from the ASTC conference in Montreal. This is our first live on air in the conference, and so I hope everything is going well, and that many of you in the sessions or in the exhibit hall or wherever you are on your devices to watch this. So we have the great chance today to have a conversation with Rosan Bosch. Rosan Bosch, as you know from our presentation, is a designer who has worked a lot in different places in the world, especially in Scandinavia, Singapore, and the US as well. And what is unique about her is how she has linked learning with design, and she will tell us more about that and better than I do. But Rosan, thanks for being with us in the first place. I would say I have met you for the first time in Korea a year ago, and we were impressed by the presentation that you made there. And then a couple of months ago, I went in a conference in South America, and some famous professor on education shows how we have to change everything in education. And one of the ways of doing that is changing the designs of schools. And there is your picture suddenly on the screen in the PowerPoint. And then 3 weeks ago, I go to the Smithsonian Early Enrichment Center, where I have the chance. My little girl is falling, and I see Kim Keel, and she said, "Oh, I love Rosan. I just met her in that conference." And so she says hello, by the way. And I said, "So you are everywhere these days." So, but I think I know you know a little bit, but maybe some of our listeners or viewers don't know. So please tell us a little bit more about you and how you became what you are today.
Whoa, well, that's a big question, how I became what I'm today. So I can tell a little bit more about what I do and what I work with. Well, my name is Rosan Bosch, and our studio works with what we call design as a tool for change and development, meaning that we actually use our abilities as contemporary artists. Some of us are contemporary artists, designers and architects. And we use our design abilities to change the physical environment, not as a goal in itself, an objective in itself, but as a tool for actually making people change their behavior, making them change their expectations, their way of thinking, functioning, and especially also emotionally, the way of feeling about an environment. And I think it is acknowledgement that connecting our brain and our body, together, and think in a holistic way. That's actually the core of what we do. And of course, that relates very strongly to education or to learning, because we don't only learn with our brain, we actually learn with our, entire being, our body as well. Well, that's a short introduction.
Yeah, but how did you come to that conviction? Because I guess you had a career before that, and if you done other things that led you to come to this kind of vision about design and learning?
Well, I don't know. I think this is a personal story, to be honest. The personal story is my own children. I had a career as a contemporary artist for many years, working as such. And then at a certain moment, I got children, and my children started to go to school. And as many others, I think that, you have this wonderful, very curious and creature, your child, you deliver it to a school, and then you can see that actually their curiosity and their this spirit they have of starting to research and play with everything and wanting to know more somehow got well, not destroyed is a big word, but yes, actually they got limited in their development by going to school instead of being stimulated, and that really frustrated me, and this has actually set off the course I do today. And I believe we have a task, we have actually a mission to do much better. It's frustrating to see that we do so badly actually with our schools, with our children, with our learning, and that we don't use the knowledge we have to create much more stimulating learning societies.
Yeah, and I don't think I disagree with you. I also have kids, but also in the same way, in our field, and many people would recognize the things that you say, is that kids have this ability to ask questions for a long time, and they have curiosity, and they try things, and if it doesn't work, they try something else. And that you seem that that kind of curiosity and experiential learning is going away when they have to go to school and to deliver to the tests and things like that. And yeah, we do agree with that. That's happening. So it's good that not only science and children's museums, but other parts of society are looking on how to improve the learning or how to keep this curiosity of kids going. So, can you tell us a little bit about the latest project that you have been doing that would respond to that question or to that problem?
Well, are you referring to like our latest projects in the Middle East, or the one we?
Oh no, I was thinking more about the Scandinavian one.
Schools, yeah, because I was thinking
the Scandinavian one, yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
because the Scandinavian schools you refer to, I mean, I think that I would love to tell about this, because actually what happened there is as well that they made us curious with the first brief of the project, which I think actually touches a core here. They asked us to create a school that children would not want to go home from. And I think that is very important, because it touches this core that learning is based on motivation, because you will have to learn the rest of your life. And you cannot actually truly understand something if you don't have this motivation, if you don't have this love or affection for what you're working with. And I think that our design is based on this belief that you have to create a motivating environment. If not, you will not be able to actually get full potential of the learning. But I promised you to tell a little bit about a theory we have and which we use, and I will do that. I will share a slide with you on my screen in a moment, just if I get it to work, that is to say. And I hope I do. Let me see. Now it doesn't work, of course. Here we go. This is some, as you can see, some icons which we used working with a school. Actually, this school, we had an understanding that we said we actually combined the pedagogy with the way they're organized and their design. And for doing so, we developed 5 terms that cover a whole range of different ways of actually, being in educational situations, but also, most important, ways of communicating. And I think that is also the understanding that education is communication. So we have something called mountaintop, cave, campfire, watering hole, and hands-on. And mountaintop covers actually one-way communication, meaning one person speaking to many or one person showing something to many and not communicating in both ways. While cave covers education where you do not communicate with others. You are actually alone. You're enclosed in an environment. Campfire covers actually situations where you have small groups that work together and very focused, like when you're sitting around the campfire. Watering hole covers, the place where the animals meet in the evening and the lion speaks to the gazelle and he doesn't eat them and you get the latest news. These are all these
hopefully, yes.
Hopefully, all these places in the school environment where you actually communicate, have a high level of knowledge exchange. And then we have hands-on, which cover all the environments in a physical school, where you use your body as a part of actually learning, and you have to have special facilities, like for example a lab or things like that. Anyway, here I put in some slides just shortly to show you some of the things of the school, just a few.
Sure, please.
Yeah, can you see them? Actually, can you see the slide now? Yes. Here, this is a main part of one of the schools, the Vitra school. We have this blue mountain, which is a theater. In front of it are some labs where there are different materials and possibilities. This is the other side of the school. We work with a different way of navigating through the school, with a tree that symbolizes a tree. So you don't think of the environment as in a numbers like classroom hundreds, but you think about, for example, having English under the tree, but also different kind of furniture. As you can see here, cave situations, places where you to go, where you want to be alone. We designed them together with the children, actually. And like
so
this.
I have an immediate question, Rosan.
Yeah,
I have an immediate question because I see the age of the kids there.
Yes.
They look to me like 10, 12, 13 years old. Is that a target audience for you, or did you do that for older kids or younger, or does it work with older or younger?
Well, it's actually an interesting question, because I think that it's definitely not only a target group. This was just an example. This is a school which is for 6 to 12-year-olds. But the funny thing is that we took this design, it's a design manual for the school organization. They have like 32 schools. And we said, okay, we started with this one, and then we worked with, you know, a group of 13 to 16-year-olds, and we started with showing them the school, and they said, okay, now we're going to do something specially for you. And their main reaction was, no, we don't want anything else. We want that. And it triggered something. And I started to think like, you know, is this childish? I mean, this actually is a thing that a lot of adult people say that, oh, this is very fun for children because I'm an adult, you know, or I'm a teenager and I have to have something more serious. And my conclusion is that, unfortunately, I don't think that we're that, or fortunately, we're not that different from children. So to be honest, we actually adapted our design because of this user involvement with teenagers and young adults, and making it much more playful because of this dialogue, because they actually want and need this playfulness as well. And so I don't really think that you can divide it that way. I don't really think that you can say that this is only for children. I think that's actually wrong.
Yeah, and I not was
claiming that. I was
just asking the question.
A fast example, actually, just one slide.
Sure,
here.
Please go ahead.
When I can make it work again. Let me see.
Yeah, you can.
It's not really working. It's just this technology.
Don't worry, it's gonna come. You don't know it's gonna come. Don't worry.
It should.
And our audience is very familiar with this, so you know it's in science these things happen all the time as well. So don't worry about it.
Well, it's not working. I'm sorry.
But then, while we are waiting to come up, another thing that I see, most of them, do they have iPads or laptops or things in their hands? So is the learning tool in this thing especially a computer-based learning thing, or is there any teacher involved, or how does that work?
Okay, now you're asking, you know, actually a new question. Well, I just got it to work, so I'm very fast going to share my screen here.
Okay,
so you can see the slide. This is the legal development department, just one slide of them, and as you can see, it's very playful, and it kind of, you know, changes this connect, you know, this idea that it can only be for, you know, for children. Now, to come back to your question, well, no, I don't think everything only needs to be or can be computer, you know, based. On the contrary, actually, but. I know that this school works a lot with giving children laptops. I mean, a laptop today is a natural tool of our, you know, everyday life. So, in that sense, I think that we have to have a balanced approach. And I think that digital media is here to come. They're part of our society. They're part of our working environment. They should, at least at the same level and preferable a bit ahead, be part of our school and education. And we're very, I mean, the problem is that the whole educational world is like searching how to deal with that, and they have a hard time. They don't know, and I think that we have to have an open mind, because things are developing so fast that the only way to react to that is to be open-minded and experiment and try things out, and not waiting until some kind of thing is proven to work, because then it's already past, you know. So, but it has a big impact on the physical design. I can tell this from a designer point of view, because we simply created our schools on the layout of, you know, sitting at a table with some ink and our small blackboard and writing, and that is gone. So our bodies are different in space, and the ways we communicate are different. So of course it has a big impact on the physical design.
So, and actually, do the children have the chance to decide themselves what they're gonna do, in which place they want to go? If they want to go in a cave or stand on, or to the water hole, do they know?
Well, now you're actually
decide themselves?
The most important thing, what I think, in this revolution, if you want to call it, of education. It's the notion of freedom. I mean, somehow schools have been based upon disciplining our children, telling them what to do, also making your passive and your brain passive in anticipating as a part of the educational development. So what we're talking about is actually schools where, yes, you are free to choose where you want to learn, because they're based upon learning you how to learn. We want to give the initiative back to children so they get, you know, develop as whole people that knowing how they learn best, which is different. So we acknowledge that children are different, all human beings are different, creating a school environment that enables you to know how you are and how you learn best, So when you get out of school, first of all, you love to go to school, you love learning, and also you know how you can develop yourself further on the rest of your life. Now, this of course counts from a very young age for small children, but it's just as relevant for, well, students, college students, adults even.
Mm-hmm. And extremely convincing the way you present this here, and I can see how you could convince the board of these schools to go with you on this experiment. What do they think today?
Well, today, I mean, now we work with a lot of schools in a lot of different countries, so of course I don't think similarly, all of them. I mean, I think that the biggest challenge, to be honest, is not the design. The biggest challenge in schools is the way they're organized and how to relate to that. And the biggest challenge is actually finding teachers and re-educating teachers so they keep track. But all these things have to happen at the same time, both the pedagogy, the organization of the school, and the physical design. And a lot of people tend to invest everything on one. We say you put all your money on one horse, and actually you have to put your money on all these different horses at the same time, and that makes it, of course, more difficult to manage. I mean, most of the schools we follow closely, and well, to be honest, I think they're a big success because they have one extremely important detail, although of course sometimes they have difficulties. But the big detail is that their kids, they just love to go to school, and that is the best departure point for any kind of learning environment, to be with a group of children that are just very motivated to be there, and every teacher knows that.
Do you ask them that, or do you survey that, or
Yes, we do, actually. We do. Yes, we do. We ask them that, we interview, we come back, we evaluate, and we ask. I mean, the biggest problem for us is that when we talk about how to create evidence on the projects we do, is that we always say, well, how do you ask the question? I mean, depends a lot on what kind of answers you get. And most governments are very much interested in hearing, well, how are their test results? Are they doing as good? And the problem is the whole way we test our children is actually contrary to, in a way, something which is embedded in this new thinking of education, because we want to have, grow mindset children that develop the rest of their world, and this testing is kind of in conflict. But yes, the test results are great, but I'm not interested in their test results. I want to know that, are they still passionate learners?
Are they
10
happy?
years after they got out of school, did they find their way in life? Did they keep on developing afterwards? And how to test that? This is a big challenge. We actually, if anybody out there,
and a bit early probably as well.
Help me, I'm sorry, what did you say?
So, and I said, and a bit early as well in the process, I guess, that you don't have enough back years to see what they became, those who went through the system.
Well, one of the
What I wanted to ask is, I haven't seen any teacher in there. You mentioned the teachers, but in the pictures that you show, I didn't see any. So, what is the role of the teacher in this regard?
It's actually funny you mentioned it. I made a short presentation, so I took out, and I think,
of course.
One way you could see the teacher. It has a different role, obviously, but it depends on which of the schools you look at, because I consider it a bit. You have to also to catch people there where they are, if you want them to develop. So not all our school projects are similar, but the one in Scandinavia, which are very, what we say, ahead in their development. The role of the teacher is a combined role, I think. I mean, they're both, in a way, they're also a coach. They're there to motivate you, to support you in your journey of learning. But of course, they're also there to kind of reach out and give you. Actually, they described it very nicely themselves, the Vitra organization. They said that they see it a bit as a kite. They called it kite education. That you're having a kite, and the child, you let them fly, and once in a while you have to pull them down, and then you let them fly again. So you do let them fly. You don't stop them. And that kite education is opposed to rubber band education, where you shoot this rubber band, poof, and then the kid collects it and brings it back, and it's kind of a repetitive thing, where they are in charge. So I don't know if this answers your question, because it has to be short.
Yes, and the way they need to be trained for that as well. I guess that teachers with a traditional training, and they don't fit in that system, so they need some kind of education on how to educate, right?
Exactly, and they work
Yeah.
well. You can use your education how to educate, but you have to expand it and work in a different way. They work very team based as well. Having teams of different teachers actually supporting each other as well in their development, as opposed to that you're kind of That's very far away from the king of the classroom kind of idea.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned several times that it may be different in different places, and so you mentioned that you have been doing a project in the Middle East. So can you maybe say what has been the different experience working in the Middle East and in Sweden, trying to implement the same kind of principles?
Well, first of all, we did not necessarily try to implement the same time of principles, because I'm not somebody, kind of like a religious going around implementing my principles. I believe in using design as a tool, and then I sit down with people and talk, what do we want to change? But all of these projects have one thing in common, and they definitely want to change the way we learn and think of learning. So in the Middle East, our experience, of course, has been, well, many, but first of all, very surprising. We had a lot of criticisms, which we actually got we're a bit ashamed of, actually, to be honest, because we met people that really wanted to innovate their society and their way of learning. And what mostly surprised me is that although, whether I'm in, as you said, in the South America, or we're in Korea, or we're in the Middle East, that in all these places at the same time, people have noticed that their educational system somehow is not adequate, is not living up to what they want, and they're searching for a breakthrough. And this is kind of amazing. I think it's a global, to be honest, I think it's a global development, and this is really this is how I notice. And yes, there are local differences, as there should be, because we're different cultures, but there are also general things going through. And one of them is, for example, the use of digital media in new ways. Another one is the aspect of differentiation, actually learning children how to learn starts with accepting that they learn differently and giving them kind of a tool bag to know how they learn and how they work. This kind of aspects, they come again no matter where you are. And then of school as well, that the school needs to be organized in a different way. That's also a basic thing. And this is the hardest thing to change, to be honest.
So you mentioned to me earlier that you have also contacts in Chicago, that you're going to start there in the Chicago school system. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's in its very early stages. It's a fantastic project. It's called the Academy for Global Citizenship. And it's a school already existing, and they're gonna, build a new school as well on a piece of land. But it's also already an organization existing, and I would actually tell everybody to take a look at it. The Academy of Global Citizenship, they're called, and they have this idea, which I really, really think is very sympathetic, that they want to create this kind of a blueprint for humanity, creating a school that can be an example for many others to follow, not by creating a school where you just have, like 30 schools of the same type, where then will enable a lot of kids to go there. No, actually creating a school that people from the whole world in a global context can come to, get experience from, take with them, and use in their local community. So we're also thinking the project, what can you actually come and take with you? And then there's another headline in this, and this is sustainability, and it's also about creating a different mindset. So not only giving a different educational model, but also giving a different mindset to children, so they go out from this school and actually creating a better world for all of us. And there's a kind of urgency in that. And when we spoke the other day, I was in Singapore, and I was going around with a face mask because the air was too bad to breathe, and then I was working with this school, and I was feeling like, well, there's a kind of urgency in this. And so yes, the thing is that education gets connected to a lot of other problems that needs to be solved in our planet Earth, and this is one example of that.
So when you tell me about that, and I think it's really not only urgent, and it's really current, and I think many places in the world think along these lines now. So I think it's really a great opportunity for schools to get on board with that. How do you actually educate the kids for that? Do they actually know what they want?
I mean, can you elaborate a little bit on this question? Because you're asking me, do they know what they want?
The sustainability aspect that you describe may not necessarily be something that they are familiar with. And even though we think there is a future for them in that, and that they should know, how do you make them understand that that's what they want?
Okay, I'll tell you. It's well, in the same time, it's kind of easy actually, and in the other time, I mean, nothing is easy, but it's all about what we started with today. That we talked about the connection between your mind and we're actually human beings. We have a body, and in the sustainable part of this is actually creating a school community. Not thinking of school as something which is kind of completely detached, from the rest of your life. Like having your life divided in free time and work time. No, school is an ecology. It's kind of a so in the school. Part of the school is, of course, the food you eat. Yes, I mean, how is your food served? Who is serving it? And what kind of food do you eat? Another thing is, of course, how does the food get produced? Having a garden, knowing how this food get grown. I mean, there are lots of lessons to learn just in the physical environment that surrounds us. And if you start to think of school, of something more broad, for example, this particular school, they do have a garden, they have chickens, they have, a cook that actually thinks about giving them organic food and inside a normal system. So I mean, a local Chicago kind of rule set and so on. So it's actually very hard for them to break that. So they're kind of fighting the system as well because they want to give their kids only organic meat and from sustainable food and so on. And they want to give this. So this whole setting actually taking the departure point in a daily environment. This now we're talking about small children. It can already be a fantastic learning environment about sustainability. Now this you can enlarge. The older kids get, and the bigger their how you call it, their setting and the mind setting gets. And it's about connecting the world to what you learn. And I think most people that work with education know that children want to have a connection in between what they learn and what's it good for. And this is,
I agree with that. I think you're totally right on that.
This is also with sustainability.
Absolutely, and so now I come back a little bit to the 5 logos that you showed in the beginning, because one is very intriguing to the science center field. Of course, it's the hands-on logo that you showed, and so that's what science centers mostly are about. So is there any connection possible to what you develop in the school and some kind of out-of-school experience that would be linked to what you are doing?
Well, I mean, yes, of course that's possible. I don't really know what you're kind of specifically are asking for, but I can tell you that we work a lot with exhibitions as well, because what we do when you kind of work with my line of design is often related to exhibitions as well. And I actually brought a little example with me, just a little example, and I hope I can make this work with the sharing of the screen. Let me see here. What you see here is part of an exhibition at the Steno Museum, which is a museum in Denmark. And there was a small exhibition, but it was very specific because it was about bodies. It was for teenagers in the most difficult age, and it was Darling Body, Difficult Body, I think they named it. And this is just a part in the exhibition where you go in, and then there's this kind of furniture, and it's actually heat sensitive. So it's like kind of when they even come in and they start to talk about what they're actually going to exhibit, they get a relationship to this chair they have been sitting on, because their butt is actually imprinted because of the heat. I know this is a bit of a joke, but it's just to give you an introduction. No. So they get into the museum, they sit down because they're mostly visited by schools, and they get an introduction, and then when they got up, they already get confronted that this is about your body. It's all this kind of, and we also know from educational work that the surprise effect is a way of opening up for new information. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so in this sense, and then of course working on, how does it work relate to culture, to Barbie dolls, to, other, cultural things. Then we actually made I don't know if you can see, this is actually a changing room. And I know, okay, there's a naked woman on here, and I don't know how you are about this in the States, but it was where you're sitting there.
We are in Canada right now, so.
I was just thinking like, oh, I don't know if this is like wrong. I mean, I didn't mean anything wrong with that. It was, I tell the story about looking at the picture, but we actually made a changing room for, a changing room of stimulation with, shower sounds and small samples of body parts and everything, because we learned that these children were often very shy about, can you dress or not dress. Anyway, it's all related about their world. They're 13, 14-year-old, and they relate to that. The thing about what is special with this museum is that actually they questioned there's a whole kind of search in it. I mean, it's a big project. I cannot tell everything in 1 minute, but they did a questionnaire. and that was just a part of the exhibition and for fun. But then it turned out that all these teenagers started to actually answer extremely truthfully on very private questions. And right now the museum uses this material for several of their researches, because they never actually, they didn't have that kind of material earlier in such a large scale. What I'm just trying to say with this example is that it's the same story. Connect the physical experience to the intellectual experience.
And it was actually an introduction to my last questions with this. If you would have to go into a science center and think of how to work with what you have learned through this process, knowing that we also want to be excited and be happy to do things and wanting to come and not necessarily learning per se, but knowing that there is a visitor's experience that's different from the school setting, of course. So would it be possible to transfer some of what you do into science center settings?
Well, yes, I definitely think so. But I also have to put a little remark, because in a way I would like the schools more to be like science centers.
I think that's the right answer, Rosan. I think that's the right answer. I would stop here.
I want it to be fun to go to school and to go to the science center both.
Okay. Well, actually, actually our time is up, and so I really enjoyed this conversation. I think we have really learned a lot of the work that you do, knowing that also it's very global, is also very interesting to us, and I think it will inspire a lot of our members to think a bit more in the future on how connect the design and the body experience with the learning experience in science centers. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today, and hope to see you soon again somewhere in the world.
Well, yeah, you're welcome. Yes, definitely. And I hope to see you soon too again. It's nice talking.
Okay, thank you. Take care, Rosan. Bye.
Take care. Bye.